Attention small business owners. Are you looking to amplify your reach and get your business in front of more customers? Deep Dive Games has an exciting opportunity for you. We're currently seeking local businesses in the St. Mary's, Georgia and Athens, Ohio areas to advertise on our 2 weekly podcasts. With 6 ad spaces available, you can showcase your brand to our engaged listeners and drive traffic to your business. Choose to pay per ad or save big by securing a year's worth of advertising in advance, locked in at the current rate. Ready to take the next step in promoting your business? Don't miss out. Contact us today at 912-439-3940 or shoot us an email at deepdivegamesllc@gmail.com. Let's work together to get the word out and grow your business. This episode is brought to you by CM Design and Gifts. CM Design and Gifts is Camden County's premier destination for everything including embroidery, laser engraving, direct-to-film printing, trophies, signs, banners, and more. Locally owned and operated by a Marine Corps veteran and his family, the store is conveniently located behind the Brown Bag Liquor Store in Kingsland, Georgia. No job is too small or too large for this thriving company, eager to support our military community and residents. Contact them at info@cmdgifts.com or visit their website at www.cmdgifts.com. This episode is brought to you by Game Over Video Games and More in Kingsland, Georgia. Are you looking for video games, classic consoles, or a fresh collection of new releases? Game Over Video Games and More in Kingsland, Georgia has it all. Whether you're a modern gamer or just want to relive your gaming nostalgia, they've got an impressive selection, great deals, and a friendly staff ready to help. Stop by and level up at Game Over Video Games and More. This episode is brought to you by Alien Treats. Ever wondered what it's like to have a milkshake that's out of this world? Welcome to Alien Treats, Kingsland's one-of-a-kind alien-themed ice cream and candy shop. Whether you're craving a cosmic milkshake, want to cruise our huge selection of freeze-dried candy, or just chill in their free arcade, they've got something for the whole family. Have a birthday party or event coming up? They have a new party room you can rent by the hour that's perfect to make every special occasion memorable. So, if you're looking for a fun, family-friendly experience that's anything but ordinary, beam yourselves over to Alien Treats in Kingsland, Georgia. Follow them on Facebook for the latest specials and events, and remember, at Alien Treats, every bite is an adventure. Alien Treats, where our treats are out of this world.
All right, guys, welcome to episode 3 of Beneath the Surface. I am one of your hosts, Tyler, joined as always by my co-host, Nick the Red.
How's it going, guys?
We have plenty of things on the docket today to talk about. Tons of new Warhammer releases, as well as a tournament, One Piece, OP10 right around the corner, and something I wasn't here for, unfortunately, the auditions for our D&D show that we're doing that I've heard went amazingly.
Oh, yeah. No, we had a lot of great applicants. A lot of their auditions went really well. It's going to be a hard job picking the final cast.
But yeah, that's everything we want to touch on today. So with everything like that laid out, let's just jump straight into it. Warhammer. We have a tournament happening this Sunday, the 23rd. We're actually going to be opening the store up early at 10 a.m. with round 1 starting off at 10:30. $20 entry. It'll be our first doubles tournament, which is really exciting to pull off.
Yeah, that's a completely different format than what I'm used to. I'm used to just doing the 1v1. It taking like 4 or 5 hours to get a game done. Can you go over some details with the people that may not be familiar with it?
Yeah, for sure. So, most of us understand how a normal game of Warhammer works. It is 1v1, 2,000-point armies, 3-hour round timer, whole shindig. Most people have done it before if you've been playing. With 2v2s, it is 2 teams of 2 players going against each other. Each player has 1,000 points, and they do not have to be the same faction. So you can see some really interesting combinations of Necrons paired up with Tyranids, Tau with Chaos Demons, all sorts of interesting stuff that, you wouldn't be able to see outside of, casual games that take a whole day to complete.
Sure. Now, with those factions, they're not able to, share their abilities across the factions, but can 2 of the same faction share their abilities?
No, that would be a little too broken. So if you have 2 Space Marine players going, if one Space Marine player pops his O for the moment, it does not affect his teammates' units, only his own.
Okay. Well, that makes sense, because, otherwise, like you said, it would just be way overpowered.
Yeah, I was about to say, you want to know the one thing worse than an orc player using the WoW?
2 orc players using a WA at the same time.
or the Nork player getting to use a WA twice.
Oh God, yeah, no.
So that's why stuff like that's set up. They have a shared pool of command points, which also helps kind of limit them.
Okay.
And primaries and secondaries are shared as well.
Gotcha. So they earn their command points on the same command phase. And you said they share a pool. Do they don't take separate turns, they play simultaneously?
Yeah, it's simultaneous play, which is definitely a hurdle to get over if you're not used to doing it. But as long as you're obviously communicating with your teammate, you shouldn't have too many hiccups.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see, like, one army wanting to shoot down one unit, another army comes in and charges in and kills it, or vice versa. The army shooting a unit takes out a bunch of models, and then the army that wants to charge in on them can't charge in on them now because they're too far away.
Exactly, losing opportune charges.
Right.
That's the only drawback you'll see if, like, you're pairing up a really heavy melee army with a shooting army is, shooting went a little too well, and now your charges don't work.
Yeah, I heard we had a couple of matches that were like that, where I think we've got a Space Wolves player or something like that pairing up with a Tau player.
Yes, so I'm not sure yet what one the second teammate is decided on, but I know I have a Tau player. Mm-hmm. It's either going to be paired up with Dark Angels or with Chaos Demons. Either way, both are some pretty scary melee armies.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see their strategy. What are we expecting for a turnout for it?
Right now, last I checked, we have 14 people signed up, so that would be 7 teams. I'm anticipating probably another 3 to 4 more people signing up before the deadline.
Okay. Yeah, guys, if this sounds like an interview, we've gone over this a couple of times already now. We've had some really bad technical issues the last time we tried to record this.
Look, it rains, it pours, man.
Oh my God, it was so bad. Like, between just not having, courtesy of the recording area or just technical issues with the equipment, it was a headache.
I was going to say, as far as courtesy with the recording area, we try to record these normally during the business hours just because I'm already here. Nick can luckily get down here most of the time.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you just have a busy day and it's a busy store.
Yeah.
And, there was one recording attempt we did where within an hour, I think we had to stop like 6 or 7 times
at least
to deal with some stuff. But, that's just
and it's no hate or negativity towards customers or whatnot. It's just, it was the irony that it was a day off for our government workers and our military workers. We're in a military town. And so with all of those workers off and a lot of our sailors off, they all came to hang out here. Yeah. And so it was just constant stream in and out, in and out.
Oh, yeah. Mondays are normally a pretty quiet day, in a card shop because most people are at work. You don't have as many people that are just rolling down ready to play card games because they just finished up their weekend of being able to do what they want. So they're getting back into work mode. And it's the same thing here. We take that time a lot to restock on stuff, talk to distributors, figure out what kind of stuff is coming out. I take that time normally to find out what we're going to talk about on these episodes. But
because usually after we record these on Monday, then we sit down and kind of come up with a plan for what's going to happen next recording session. Unfortunately, Monday, like I said, was the holiday. We just could not get anything recorded.
It did not want to.
Not want to play right.
And then, oh God, and then the best one we had with the mic now.
Oh my God. Oh yes, I was so irritated about that because literally we got an hour and 40 minutes recorded. Everything was going good, and then I noticed that because I'm running the computer right now, and I noticed that my mic was not picking anything up. And then I went back and I checked, and about 51 minutes in, my mic died. And so I'm just sitting there talking. You hear me in the background.
Yeah, it's like he's a little background voice, and I'm just going.
But really the main reason why this is probably going to sound more like an interview is because a lot of the stuff we're talking about today is not really something that I'm super familiar with. I've played the One Piece card game. I play Warhammer. I don't really follow a lot of the news for Warhammer. So a lot of times I get all of my information from players coming in, or I get information from Tyler, to keep me up to date on what things are going on.
And it's crazy because I don't get to play very often, but just by nature of being the one that runs all the tournaments for us and, has really been pushing to kind of grow our presence within the greater Warhammer community for our local area, it's really just kept me on top of things. But yeah, so we have the tournament going on this Sunday. Another thing I wanted to touch on was releases. We've had a lot of really cool releases recently for Warhammer.
I don't want to cut you off or nothing, but I do want to make sure that we let everybody know who may or may not tune in. Time, entry fee, and like what they need to know and where they can find like all of the information at. Oh
yeah, for sure. To go over it again, it was February 23rd. So this coming Sunday from when we're recording. Entry fee will be $20 per player. With doors opening at 10 a.m. Round one starts at 10:30.
Yeah.
Which means that we're probably going to be running till, I'd say, probably 8 o'clock, knowing how rounds go, because I always like to give a meal break after round one.
Sure. I mean, when you're there 3 hours, 10 to 1, basically, give the guys a chance to kind of go over to WePub. Shout out to our friends at WePub.
Oh, yeah.
We've always got some of the best food.
I feel like we almost bankroll them solely with our people. Let me tell you, on a Friday night, you just have tons of people pouring over there to grab food. So
yeah. No, I mean, we literally altered their menu because of how many times people went over there to get food and whatnot. We kept getting the late night menu stuff, and you'd have people going over there before 10 o'clock, which is when their late night menu starts.
Yeah, they finally were just like, okay. We'll shift some stuff.
We're gonna move it around. We're gonna bring the chicken tendies to
the loaded chicken tenders.
Yeah,
our tendies. We gotta have them. We're gamers. Got to get that perfect junk food fuel.
Segueing in,
right? So
releases. We had a recent Krieg release, and I know a lot of our locals were really, really excited about.
Oh yeah, so
and this is like a unique release too, right? It's not like your standard release.
Yeah, it's similar to what they did with the Tau release last year. Because Tau, they made a really big deal because they finally released Kroot again. It's something they had been hinting at for a long time, that they wanted to resculpt Kroot and make Tau feel like not just one group of aliens, but it's supposed to be a collective of these Xenos races, right? So they did a big release for that, and they're doing the same thing with Krieg because people have been wanting Krieg for so long to get, resculpted, taken out of those old Forge World resins.
Right, right.
So they released it in a big box set. It comes with the special edition codex, and people who buy that box are getting a hold of their codex a month before anyone else can get it that just pre-orders a codex. So if you go into the app right now, Krieg, and none of the new stuff is available. None of the new Krieg units have been updated. All of that stuff is waiting for the official street release.
Right. But yet you got players who have their codex already. So it makes it gives that extra incentive to pick up this box, and really drives home like, hey, this is a big deal. This is a big thing if you are an Astra Militarum player. It's really big if you're into playing Krieg, which a ton of people that get into Militarum, that's what they want to do, is play Krieg. I mean, dude, the aesthetic is just so good. Like it gives you that old World War I, World War II, German, Austrian soldier vibes with the helmets and the gas masks. And honestly, like if you think about any like Imperial Guard art that you've seen, you've probably seen Kriegsman.
Oh yeah, I mean, Krieg is the Kriegs are pulled from a lot more than Cadians, I feel like, just because what looks more gothic and like dystopian than seeing a bunch of dudes in like those old like Kaiser helmets with a little pointy bit sticking up off the top, and the gas masks, and
the trench coats, and
you have the marshals,
insignias on their arms and whatnot.
Yeah, with the mechanized war horses and stuff like that. Like that just screams 40K. As far as their lore goes, I am woefully underread on a lot of the Imperial Guard, Astra Militarum stuff.
If I remember right, and I'm not a lore expert at all, I get all of my lore from Isander and Coda. Shout out to those guys. Their lore videos are amazing. I'm subscribed to their channel, and I don't subscribe to anything on YouTube, and I subscribe to their channel. because it's so good. You know, I can throw a video on and just watch it on my way into work or something like that. Though what I do remember, because they did a whole episode on the Guard, and what I do remember is something about them being from a death world, and that's why they all wear those gas masks, because like they're so adapted to living on this death world that they can't stand being outside of it.
Yeah,
it's kind of reminds me of like the Plo Koon and his race.
You see, you're already bringing up something I am.
Oh yeah,
beyond.
So Star Wars, there's a race, the Keldor, that live on a world that they breathe helium, and so they have to wear like this gas mask. That's why you see him with that kind of gas mask.
I always wondered why he had that thing on.
Yeah, it's because he can't breathe regular air. But yeah, so the Kriegsmen, like as far as I understand it, like they're so hopped up on chemicals and their bodies are so used to being in their atmosphere that they have to wear those gas masks like all the time.
Yeah, and you know, it's another big thing. It kind of influences a lot of like how they think as well. You know, Kriegsmen, they're called the Death Corps of Krieg for a reason. They view dying in battle for the Emperor as like one of the greatest honors. They think that they are destined to die. That is what they are there for.
They're basically cultists.
Yeah, it feels like cultists at a certain point, but you know,
militaristic cultists.
That's heretical.
Oh
Be
yeah,
careful about saying that. You know, that's
careful,
heretical against the Emperor.
Inquisition will show up.
But yeah, that's what makes them so unique. You know, obviously people love Cadians. You know, the fall of Cadia is one of the biggest events in 40K lore.
I genuinely think that the two factions of the Imperial Guard that are the most recognized are the Cadians, because you have Old Baeli was a Cadian.
Yep.
And then the Kriegsmen. Kriegsmen are just so recognizable.
Yeah, you know, I mean, and as things stand right now, you've got Krieg, Cadians, and I guess you've still got a little bit of the Catachans, but a lot of those models are really old, and you know, I'm sure they'll be getting their refresh probably next edition, let's be honest, if they're going to keep this schedule that they've been keeping.
Probably. I mean, it seems to be the case with GWs. They have a very strict kind of schedule they stick to for their releases and whatnot. I think, doesn't it also, like, you were telling me before that there was an issue that came up because of their release schedule.
Yes.
At one of the big tournaments, and I was like, when I heard this, I was blown away at like how something like that could have happened.
Yeah, so it has to do with the other release I wanted to talk about, Eldari.
Mm-hmm.
So Eldari got a more standard release where, you know, their codex rolled out, their handful of new models. They didn't get a big box the same way that Krieg did, but, you know, all their stuff rolled out. But because of the way and timing of release, there were a couple of GTs that happened that you have players that signed up to play Eldari, and they show up day one for their GT, and they don't have their codex in yet because they're still shipping, and the app is already updated. So if you don't have that code out of your codex, a lot of your information is locked up.
Oh, Jesus.
So
basically, they can't play.
Yeah, it created a really awkward situation. I know certain tournament organizers kind of figured things out. They said, okay, run it on what you had before. You know, we'll figure something out. Or if someone managed to get a hold of their book early, borrow their book, do something. But, you know, it was just one of those really awkward, unfortunate situations with, you know, the timing of release. And it created a really good joke because, you know, Guard players already have all their stuff.
Right.
It's just not in the app.
And it's not in the app. But then,
you know, you get
Eldari,
the inverse on Eldari.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's information's already updated, but no one's gotten a hold of their stuff yet because we're waiting for it to show up to your LGSs or for it to ship to you personally directly from GW.
See, that's to me that kind of like, if you ordered it through GW, right? If you pre-ordered it or whatever, I really feel like, hey, you bought this book, you have proof that you bought this book, they should send you a code that you can update your app as soon as you buy it. That would make more sense.
You know, and I think the reason why they don't do it is just because of the way they handle the app updates for when books come out.
Yeah.
You know, they do it generally the day of, that the app will push through the update. Sometimes it takes a couple of days because I know that there have been a few times where people have been waiting for stuff to hit the app.
Yeah.
But I assume that's just a communication thing within GW.
Probably something like that. I mean, I know I for the longest time, I didn't update my app. Like I turned the auto updates off on most of my stuff normally, and just the GW app, the Warhammer app that I have on my phone, I didn't update. And I remember the first tournament we ran here, a lot of people like didn't have access to their stuff anymore. I remember you were trying to put together Raven Guard.
Yes, and all of a sudden I did not have access.
Yeah, you didn't have access to anything, and then I'm like, "What are you talking about? I can pull it up right here." And I was like, "Yeah, it's right here, all the information."
You're like, "There it is."
How?
3 erratas old, but we were there.
I mean, stuff. I could at least see the stuff and get the stats.
Yeah, that's true. And that's just one of those awkward things that comes with it. I really think the app is a great idea. Like, I'm so glad they introduced it.
Yeah.
We've both played Age of Sigmar as well.
Yeah.
And the Age of Sigmar app is like the shining example for apps when it comes to wargaming.
Yeah, I mean, all your information is right there when you're doing your army building. It literally is like, hey, which one is your warlord? Which one is the faction buff, the detachment rule that you're running? Which ones are going to be your battle line? Which one's going to be your army, your heavy infantry? And
and it went so far as it was letting you build regiments and stuff, which is a big deal in Age of Sigmar. And they've definitely taken a lot of that into the 10th edition app for 40K. And I'm hoping with next edition, when of course they're going to roll out their new app, because they always have to roll out a new one.
Of course.
Because I think they do that just for the distinction of it. We'll continue to see them do improvements, and hopefully we will start getting those same day codes so that it can avoid those situations. But, it's one of those things. GW doesn't run the tournament circuit.
No, of course not.
So that's where there's always going to be situations like that want to arise.
Well, I think unless it becomes a bigger problem, I don't think they're going to do anything to fix it, just because it was a minor hiccup. Usually things like that don't happen.
Exactly. If it were an LVO or something like that, like a world final stage, and that situation happens, they would probably do something. They'd jump on it real quick.
That's probably more attention that they would then be able to really focus down on fixing.
Yeah, and mind you, I know that they keep LVO marked on their calendars over there.
Yeah,
especially because they do so many preview announcements and stuff like that. I doubt they would ever let something that big happen. But if it ever did, for whatever reason, I think we would see some major changes push through the pipe at a very fast pace, especially for GW.
So we had the Kriegsmen come out. We have the Eldari being updated. They're getting a lot of new models. They're getting a lot of updates on their units and their abilities and things like that. Because I remember the Eldari was a pretty dominant faction in 9th edition, and they just kind of fell off.
Yeah, it's always Eldari and Guard. I feel like that by the end of an edition, they tend to just be topping a lot of your tournament lists, and like with win percentages and everything like that. But another big one that we're seeing, that we're finally getting as a completely new faction, Emperor's Children, are gonna be rolling through.
Yeah, the Emperor's Children are finally coming back, and we haven't seen them dang near since like what, 5th, 6th edition?
Probably 5th or 6th. Yeah, that's when I feel like that's still when they were releasing. If you wanted a Chaos Space Marine, you just bought Chaos Space Marine, and it came with a bunch of upgrade sprues so that you could make it for whatever faction you wanted.
Right.
I know that, shout out to my Night Lords players. That struggle all too well. You're buying some really old models to get your bits.
And just to touch on that, I was reading an article last night, actually, that was talking about the Night Lords are getting a new kill team box.
Are they getting it? I know they got one already that came out.
Yeah, the new kill team box gives you a lot of new models and whatnot, specifically for the Night Lords.
Yes, that was a really big deal, and those boxes have been selling like crazy because of it. Because it's the first time we've had Night Lords in plastic.
Right, I was going to say Night Lords, dude. Like,
it's their custom models.
You can't beat them.
Yeah, you don't have to buy 3 different kits and bash them together to make a Night Lord.
Right,
which is exciting. But now all of our Emperor's Children players
are finally going to be able to get those models on the table instead of just taking some CSM and modding them.
Yeah,
because that's the thing. GW is all about kit bashing and things like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
as long as like 80% of the model is GW plastic.
Yeah, they always say within reason. You can all so. As far as I know, their 3D printing policy goes, because that's always been a crazy thing.
Right, it's always been a point of contention.
Yeah, and, it's something that we've had to bring up at tournaments and stuff too, because like I understand people have this passion for the game. Sometimes people are doing it just because they can't get a hold of a model for whatever reason. But the official policy and stance that we as a game store and GW wants to take is,
Right.
You want to use something 3D printed for a model that you already have. Cool, go for it, as long as it is designed by you.
Right.
And it is an extra bit, and it does not heavily alter the original look of the model.
Right.
So you want to 3D print some extra spikes and bits and bobs for your chaos stuff? Cool, go for it. You're trying to 3D print the whole model?
That's not and that just infringes. That touches on like copyright infringement and things like that. So that's understandable. And of course, as a store that is affiliated or at least sells the GW product, the stance we have to uphold that stance. And it's understandable. Like, man, I'm sorry. We had a guy at one of the first tournaments that we ran try to bring a couple of 3D printed models on the table, and he was like, "Man, I can't get a hold of these anywhere. They're everywhere. Everybody doesn't have them anymore."
And it's like, I get it. I totally
get it.
Understand.
We're sorry, but you can't use it in the tournament. Like, if you want to do casual play afterwards, that's fine.
Yeah, casual play is one thing.
But if this is an official thing, like, we can't allow
that
3D models. So unfortunately, he had to cut that unit from his roster and sub it out for something
quick
else.
Changes, but
we gave him time to do.
Of course,
we're not going to be so hard
that just be like, sorry. But
sorry, get out.
Yeah, no, of course not. But it's just one of those situations that crops up. But yeah, so with Emperor's Children, those players finally aren't going to have to 3D print their noise marine bits anymore.
I was going to say the little greebles, like their horns and
they're going to have a hold of them finally.
Brother, I am so looking forward to seeing like some of these Emperor's Children custom paint jobs. I'm so looking forward to it. Getting some 80s hair metal band paint jobs, or honestly, the one that I want to see the most is probably like the Mad Max Fury Road stuff.
Oh yeah, that would look
that's going to be sick.
I think there's going to be so much fun, like creative space for a lot of our people to do painting. And I mean, on top of that, you have such a big character finally being introduced into 40K with an official model in Fulgrim.
Yes, I have seen this thing, and it looks amazing. It honestly, for my D&D fans out there, it looks like a Merilith.
Oh yeah,
that snake body with the forearms and the giant wings. And I'm gonna wager a guess and say that he's probably can stand shoulder to shoulder to a knight easily. Yeah,
he is large. Like, that's a large model. They've been doing that with a lot of the demon princes.
Yeah.
Angron's a big model. Magnus is an even bigger model, I think. Mortarian's up there.
Mortarian's definitely a big model. We have a couple of people actually that have Mortarians in their army list, and he is huge.
Yeah, I mean, like, he is an imposing figure, and Fulgrim follows that trend. Compare him to a normal Space Marine.
Yeah,
the scale is shown off pretty effectively. But we've already been getting teased about his look with the Horus Heresy tabletop that they handle. There was the initial Fulgrim model, and then they did Fulgrim transformed. But getting to see the full plastic, like, unfurled wings and everything for this new 40K model, it looks stunning.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to kind of seeing what some of our local painters can do with it when they finally can get their hands on it. Because let's face it, GW hires the best of the best of the best, right?
Yes.
And their models always look so pristine and so clean, and the paint jobs are so immaculate. But, when you get to the local scene, we've got some really talented painters.
Oh yeah, we have
that come in and paint. We just had a Shalaxi model, right?
Yes,
that was painted by one of our local painters.
I was gonna say, she's painting up my Necrons for me. Actually,
she did a fantastic job on it. Like, I'm terrible with names. I got her face, but I'm terrible with names. I don't remember her name. Kayla, that's right.
Kayla handles
that. So shout out to her. She did a really great job on that one.
Great work with the models that she paints up. And it's always fun talking with her because she she's one of those people. She's like, I just paint. I don't know anything about Warhammer. We'll be like,
as
oh,
long
yeah,
as it looks good, she don't care.
Because she popped by the other day and you did drop off some models for me and let me look at the paint job that she's been working on. And there were 2 Tyranid players going. She was like, what are they playing? I'm like, oh, it's Warhammer. They're doing Tyranids. And she looked at me. She's like, the bugs. And I'm like, yeah, the bugs. And she's like, okay.
But yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. Especially, I'm a Knights player. We've already established that, and the Knights are finally going to be getting their codex this year.
Yes, that's supposed to come out.
And it looks like it's going to be coming out in the next quarter after the Eldari.
Yes, so it's looking like I'm trying to remember the roadmap because they have a ton of stuff.
Yeah,
slated.
So they said slotted. We already got through all the way through 2024. We got the new detachments in December.
Yep.
And then the roadmap for 2025 shows Krieg, and then it shows Eldari, and then it shows Knights. And it looks like they're combining the Imperial Knights with the Chaos Knights. So it's almost like you're getting 2 for 1.
Yes, I feel like they're starting to do that a lot now because with a lot of your Chaos factions as well, it's being speculated that Chaos Demons aren't really going to be their own thing anymore.
Mm-hmm. Like their own separate faction.
Yeah, their own separate faction. And they're going to be more grouped in with whatever Chaos Space Marine Legion,
and honestly, that just
lines
makes
up
sense.
with it.
Like,
it does.
Like, I get it. Like, you've got your dedicated demon players that are all like, man, that sucks. I love being able to run my great old, great unclean one.
Mm-hmm.
And, the bloodthirsters.
Yeah, that's a model. You're still on the point.
Well, I'm sitting there, I'm trying to remember what the big one was called, because I know there's Bloodletters and Bloodthirster, and I think the Bloodthirster is the big Balrog looking one.
I want to say Bloodthirsters are the big one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure if we got one of our demon players in here, they would rattle off every single model
before they would throw something
exists.
at me.
Yeah, that too. It's a demon player.
But anyway, moving on to the big thing that you want to talk about.
Yes.
The thing that you're salivating over, talking about me being a big fan of Star Wars.
We can take the shackles off finally and start talking. One Piece, OP10, Royal Bloodlines.
Yeah.
Or Royal Blood, whatever you want to call it. There's always the JP name and the English name. So people bounce between them a lot. That comes out March 21st.
Yeah.
We are super excited. It's the first set that we as a store have been able to get a decent hold on because it's been one of the big issues with One Piece. And I'm sure all of my players know getting a hold of product.
Oh, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. And that seems to be the case with any of these Japanese card games that are coming out. Pokemon is almost impossible to get hold of right now.
Yeah.
One Piece has always been kind of a hard thing to get a hold of, and it is blown up.
Yeah, I mean, it is. That has been one of the fastest growths I've seen for a card game in a very long time. Obviously, I wasn't alive to see this one, but I feel like it's growing at a rate that Magic was growing at. It's been around for 2 years now. We've got 10 sets, and we haven't had a miss yet. I know when I was looking at sales charts for at least Japan for their sales, it's, I think, in the top 3. So, it's blasting out stuff that has been around for a decade longer than it.
Well, I mean, you're talking about an IP that's super, super popular. I mean, if it wasn't, it wouldn't have lasted as many episodes as it has, or as many chapters.
Yeah, chapters
in the manga as it has. It's over 1,000 something chapters in the manga and over 1,200 episodes.
Yeah, I think the most recent chapter was 1129. So
Jesus.
Yeah, it's been running. It's been running for a long time. We're talking 2 decades of a manga, 2 decades of an anime. So that's a ton of content to pull from, and they're proving it. 10 sets, and they haven't had to retread a lot of ground as far as what time periods they're focusing on. Obviously, characters are going to keep pulling, but because of how the story has been structured, you can have 50 printings of Luffy, and it still feels like a different card, and it doesn't feel like, oh, great, Luffy again.
Yeah.
But Just some things to touch on with this set, stuff I'm really excited about. I know last time we talked about it, we kind of just went over every single leader. Honestly, I think it's better to just touch on the big hitters.
Ones that you're looking forward to seeing.
Yes, some big hitters, because there are a few that are kind of whatever. We'll see how they develop later on.
Mm-hmm.
But, the ones that I've seen the most talk about, I have to start with the blue-black Usopp.
Yeah, you were really excited about it. It's the first Usopp leader you're getting for the game.
Yes.
He's blue and black, which has a lot of cost manipulation, a lot of bounce, things like that in it. From what I'm gathering, and this is coming from somebody who doesn't really play the game.
Yeah,
I have one deck. It's a mono red Zoro deck that I just threw together, and I had no intention of spending a lot of money on this game because I already had Magic at the time, and I already have Star Wars that I'm really focusing heavily on. I think it's an enjoyable game to sit down and play. I just don't think it's something that I'm probably going to be heavily invested in. But even still, this is a decent enough card game that even I have kind of picked up on a lot of the stuff that goes on here.
Yeah, and I never thought that I was going to be so heavy into the One Piece card game. Before playing it, I read One Piece very casually. I wasn't a diehard fan.
Sure.
But, it was something I was aware of, something I enjoyed. And then as I just randomly found a starter deck one day, picked it up, and started messing around with it, I fell in love with the game.
Yeah, you're the one that brought it to the store. I remember... you brought a couple of starter decks that you put together and a bunch of your bulk and whatnot, brought it into the store. You got 2 or 3 other people kind of interested in it. I sat down and played a couple of games before we actually knew how the game was really meant to be played. And then from there, within the last, 6 months?
Yeah, I'd say probably 6-7 months.
It just exploded
our first
in popularity.
The first set that we were really able to pick up was OPO 7.
Yeah.
Which, God, that feels like a lifetime ago now, but that was only
3 sets ago.
Yeah, 4 if you count some of the extra releases.
That's true. They do have a lot of these little side releases,
which are nice. They definitely help pad out the time, which is crazy to say because when we're talking about a release schedule, One Piece is a pretty packed release schedule.
Yeah.
When we're at 10 sets in 2 years, with a lot of other card games, that would feel kind of smothering almost.
With a certain card game, it definitely feels smothering.
Yeah.
The release schedule being one after the other after the other.
Yeah, boom, boom, boom.
But with a lot of those games, a lot of other games outside of it, the card pool is so much larger in these sets. So having, a bunch of sets released one after the other, that's, again, my favorite game, Star Wars. The release schedule they have is literally, they've said, we are only releasing 3 sets a year. First third of the year, second third of the year, fourth third of the year. It's going to be in March, June or July, one of the two, and then November. And it's evenly spread out.
Yeah. But with One Piece, because they're doing these smaller sets, the set is only normally, I want to say, anywhere from 140 to 190 cards per set.
Right, which are tiny compared to all these other card games.
Because they're releasing them that way, they can do a release every 2 months. And it doesn't feel...
Exactly. It doesn't feel...
too much.
Like it's too much too soon. And with the little side sets, like you said, it kind of pads out the numbers a little bit to kind of make a set feel a little fuller.
Exactly. But getting into the cards for OP10.
Sure.
So with this Usopp, his effect is all of your Dressrosa type characters with a cost of 2 or more gain +1 cost. Which, for all my people that play One Piece, that sounds super normal. To anyone that doesn't know One Piece, a lot of removal, a lot of your removal, especially in Black, is affected by the cost of a character. Mm-hmm. One Piece is one of the few games I've seen where it cares about the cost that you paid to play a character after it is on the board and, has been existing. Plenty of other card games, they care about it when it's in your hand or during the act of casting. Mm-hmm. But One Piece is the first game I've seen where it really cares about it still sticking, because that's where a lot of your Black cards will say, oh, remove character at cost 4 or less, or give a character -4 cost. And that's how it finds its avenues to take things out off the board and put it into people's discard.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like an anti-effect with what Usopp's doing.
And what I'm kind of seeing with a lot of the cards in this set specifically is there's a lot of like, if an opponent's character costs 1 or less, bounce it back to their hand, or if it's 5 or less, bounce it to their hand. Or I think there's one guy that says when you play, exhaust your Dressrosa leader or stage, and return that character to the bottom of its owner's deck.
Yes.
So it's a lot of like removal that way instead of just destroying things. Bouncing or shuffling or whatnot.
Yeah. So then that's how they've been trying to gear things. So it's less of just straight boom, destroy that, get rid of that. They're shuffling things away to help kind of change up some of the way the play goes. But that also ties into stuff like the second part of Usopp's effect, which is it says opponent's turn once per turn. This effect can be activated when your Dressrosa type character is removed from the field by your opponent's effect or KO'd. So, tying into stuff getting bounced or put to bottom or back on top of the, the deck. If you have 5 or less cards in your hand, draw 1 card.
Right.
Which, that's a very powerful effect. I know to someone that plays Magic, it may not sound that crazy.
Right. In Magic, drawing cards is like a dime a dozen. Pretty much every color has ways of doing it and that kind of thing. And I feel like from what I've gathered and from what I've seen and from what I've heard from other players that actually play this game, drawing cards is a very powerful effect in this game.
Yes. There's no maximum hand size in One Piece.
Right.
So, you can really build up your hand. And because the cards in your hand are how you handle the battle phase. So when you're defending, you're using counters off cards. The more cards you have in your hand, the more resources you have to kind of stave off your opponent.
Right.
So if you're able to, benefit from losing one of your characters and take an extra card into hand, that's a big deal. It's very reminiscent of Sakazuki, who was the first leader to ever get banned in the game.
Right.
And the same color combos.
You were telling me it's the same color combo. And the fact that whenever you KO one of your opponent's guys, you get to draw a card. This is kind of the reverse of that. Whereas if your guy gets KO'd, and from what I understand there's a lot of blockers in those colors. There's a lot of like, trash or ban or whatever the word is for it, where you sacrifice a dude from your side of the field for effects and things like that.
Yeah, just a lot of stuff like that works.
That'll make this Usopp probably do really well.
Oh yeah, I highly suspect that this Usopp is going to be performing very well in our market, because we always have to separate the metas, because our releases are staggered compared to Japan's.
Right.
Japan is like almost 2 sets ahead of us.
Well, you were saying to me before that they were planning on trying to fix that, where we're getting these rapid release of sets to try and catch us up to where Japan is, and that by the end of the year we should be synchronized in our release schedule.
That's the goal, fingers crossed. Obviously, Bandai doesn't give us a lot of information on that.
Sure.
But we try to look at their other card games to get an idea. I know that Digimon is on a simultaneous release schedule now, and I believe the new Dragon Ball card game is on one. So the current theory is that there is a set of starter decks that are releasing around like June, July. And that is where simultaneous release is going to be officially like kicked into full gear.
Yeah.
We're getting those at the same time as Japan, and we'll see what that does, because we've had the benefits of bannings are always based on JP. So sometimes we have problems dealt with
before they become a problem.
Yeah, before they can even become a problem. A great example of that, Red Purple Law.
Right, you were telling me about this one too.
Yes, he was the second leader to be banned. So, yeah, there's only 2 leaders banned right now. So he was our second one to get banned. His banning happened right before OP08 came out in the West, because they already had it in the East. And there was one card in that set, Black Maria, that just made it so that Law's leader ability just had no downside, no cost. You were bottom decking your opponent's stuff, getting to play your own stuff for free. And Black Maria would just use her once per turn ability, reset all your Dawn that you needed.
Yeah.
Just fully reset your resources, keeps you on the same pace as your opponent. It was destroying their competitive scene.
Right.
And so, they pushed the ban through, And we didn't have to see that. We got to see a very different meta develop out here because we didn't have to worry about that looming threat.
Yeah, so I'm kind of wondering, like, they banned it after this card came out. It was effectively banned before the card even released over here.
Yes.
So it's like a lot of players, I could imagine a lot of players were confused as to, well, why the heck is this one getting banned? And it's like, oh, well, it's a future problem.
Yeah.
They're eliminating. And so you probably had a couple of players over here that were playing Red Purple Law that was like, oh, this isn't so bad. And then he got banned. And now you're like, why? What's going on? And you had to find out that it's because a card came out in a future
set. It created a really interesting situation because Red Purple Law was a very popular leader even before then because he came out with the 3 captains EX starter deck that they released. So, people were playing him already and they were like, wow, he's a ton of fun. He was already really competitive. And then they were like, oh, wow, I didn't think he was that bad. And you go, well, read this card. And they go, oh. So it did change things a lot. But, we're not going to see that situation anymore, which a good and a bad thing. It definitely lets it feel a bit more engaging as a player to know that I won't now know every single card that's going to be in the next set.
Sure.
Months beforehand.
Sure, and you can't pre-plan your decks out based on that anymore.
Yeah,
which
because
I feel like kind of evens the playing field some.
It does, and it certainly will make it'll make the meta feel a bit more varied, I think, because you don't have time to pre-plan. You don't have time to hyper analyze these cards to a point where you've already cracked the code on what's going to be broken for a set. We're going to all be kind of figuring it out together, and it'll make the competitive environment, especially for Worlds, feel a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
But
so out of that, so we've gotten the leader that you're most looking forward to. How about some of the cards in the set itself that you're looking forward to? I know you were talking about this whole set is basically set around the Punk Hazard and Dressrosa arc, which ironically is the furthest I've gotten in the actual anime. Is I've gotten up to the big battle arena where they're fighting over the flame fruit. So I actually recognize a bunch of these characters.
Yeah, which it makes it more fun, right? When you can recognize the characters and situations.
I mean, fun is a very extreme word to use on that one, but I will say it's definitely oh, okay, I don't feel as lost in this one because I know people talking about a couple of sets ago, Egghead.
Yes, that was for OP07,
and just how they were all head over heels about the Egghead stuff, and then I'm seeing a bunch of these chibi characters that kind of look like some of the other characters, but they're not the other character. It was a whole, and that's probably one of the reasons why I wasn't super big into this because I'm not a huge fan of the anime or the manga. Not saying it's a bad thing, I'm not saying it's a bad show or a bad manga or something like that. Put your pitchforks down, but I am not a fan of it. It never grabbed me because that's my whole thing. Is if a show does not grab me in the first couple of episodes, I don't feel like watching it as much. Sure, I watched the whole first arc, right? I sat through it because I was with somebody who was a huge fan, so I spent more of the time just watching it with her than sitting down and actually watching it.
Yeah, I get that.
So I got all the way through. The grand or the blue, the big, whatever East Blue. There you go. See, I don't even know what their things are called. And then they get to the big mountain range and the big whale that's there, and they get across that and into the Grand Line, and it just episode after episode after episode. There were a couple of characters in the earlier episodes that I found really funny. Mr. 2 was definitely a funny one, and I enjoyed the show for what it was. But then it started dragging on and on and on. And it felt like there was no progress made. Every time I'd turn on an episode, I'd watch. I mean, we've talked about this before.
Yes.
At length.
We have talked about this a lot. We have beaten
this dead horse thoroughly into glue.
Because I am very big on I feel like One Piece has some of the best world building of any series
Sure.
that I've ever read or watched.
I would say, so somebody came in and said something along the same lines. They said, this show, One Piece and Adventure Time, probably have the best world building because you have to watch the entire series of events to figure out what's going on.
You know, and Adventure Time, I've heard that too. I never watched Adventure Time really. I
never got into it.
It was kind of like I was in that weird point when it came out when I was growing up, and it was like I was slowly phasing out of watching regular cartoons, watching like adult, anime and other shows. Yeah, you know. I won't make the joke, but you know, you lay it out for me.
Yeah. Anyway,
but no, with One Piece, and I also understand it's daunting. 1,100 chapters, over 1,000 episodes. Even if you're interested in it, you sit down and watch episode 1, and you look at that list of episodes that's ahead of you. You know, it's a journey.
Shoot, Crunchyroll has it set up into like seasons, and
it still feels
in
rough.
The 80s for like seasons. So it's just like, good Lord. And then I think honestly, the biggest thing that annoys me the most, and again, we have beaten this dead horse thoroughly, like the thing that annoys me the most about One Piece is the fact that I turn on an episode, I have to watch 2.5 minutes of a theme song. I hit the skip button for skip intro, because I mean, I'll watch an intro at least once.
Give it the one go.
I give it the one go to get it. Like, it's a catchy song, cool. You know, da 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 da. You know, dance along with it, whatever. Get past that intro. There's a second intro where it's basically recapping the arc of this part of the show, the Grand Line. You know, in the first arc, it was, you know, the age of piracy. Started off with Goldie Roger, and if you want the One Piece, you can find it all in one piece, or whatever the hell.
You find it all in that place. And you don't even know what that place is for like 900 episodes.
And then, you know, you're sitting there, and he's just it's that repeated over and over again. Finally get through that, and there's at least a good 3 minutes of recap of the last episode, or the last 2 episodes, and they play like the entire scenes. It's not just a little like voiceover like, oh, this happened last time. You know, it's not like, you know, the intros to Dragon Ball or something, you know, last time on Dragon Ball.
No, yeah, it's just like, hey, here's the big scene from last time. Here's the big scene
from last time. We're going to play it in its entirety. Then here's the next scene that we're going to play in its entirety. So after I've sat through like 7 minutes, I finally get a title card, and then I go into the first actual new stuff for all of like 7 minutes. And then it cuts to a commercial break.
Cuts to an ending.
It's like, Jesus.
That's why I always tell people, when you're watching it, don't feel daunted by a 23-minute runtime on an episode.
That's because you're only getting like 15 minutes.
Only episode 1's going to have that, because after that, you get about 12 to 15 minutes of actual new show, and then you just keep rolling. That's 4 episodes an hour.
And see, that just annoys me, though, because like I'm sitting there hitting the skip button, skip button, skip button. If somebody, please, dear God, the internet, if somebody out there can like edit One Piece to cut out the little like recap and the intro, the second intro. I don't mind the intro song. You know, every show's got to have a theme song, whatever. Don't care about that. But like that second intro where it's the compass underwater in the sunken ship, and they're talking about the Grand Line. And you're just like, I don't care about that. Cut that out.
Just give me the
cut that out. Cut the outro out. Just give me the meat and potatoes of the episode.
I'm sure someone's done it already.
Dear God, if I could find that, I could actually tolerate sitting down and watching over 1,000 episodes of the show.
I'm willing to bet money someone's already done that. But hey, there's a card game that we have to talk about.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, no, let's get back to it.
Okay, so to stop you from blowing another gasket on the anime.
Yeah, Lord.
The card that I'm the most excited for, because the decks that I play currently, I play Jewelry Bonnie. I've driven people up a wall with Jewelry Bonnie in our locals. I've been playing it since she released in OP07, and I've not gotten off of that high horse. And I also play Shanks, the new leader. But a card for Jewelry Bonnie that I'm super excited for is this new 5-cost Smoker.
Yeah, 5 cost, 7K, does everything that you want to do in a Bonnie deck.
Yes, it has Banish, which means that, you know, if it gets through on a successful attack on someone's leader, instead of the life card going to hand or being able to trigger, go straight to discard,
Right.
which is huge when dealing with some of these troublesome decks like Enel,
Mhm.
which is a yellow deck that relies a lot on manipulating top of life to get triggers to go off, or a deck like Don Quixote, which is about building up that hand size and just countering out and cycling through stuff pretty effectively.
Yeah.
And then he has an additional ability, which is his Activate main. You can set up to one of your Dawn cards as active. Then you cannot set Dawn cards as active using character effects during this turn.
Mm-hmm.
So, if anyone else has played Bonnie and is thinking the way I'm thinking, you just go, oh, cool, I'll just set that as my last Activate main in the turn.
Right.
Because you have plenty of other things that are re-upping your Dawn and are giving you those extra resources so that you can just keep grinding through stuff, keep setting things up so that your opponent can't play the way that they want to, and then you just have that final little, oh yeah, by the way, Bonnie's ability, got the one Dawn for it. I'll always have my one Dawn.
Yep. The other thing that I was kind of looking at is there are some other cards in here that I think probably would go well with that deck too. I mean, I know the Tashigi is a really great protection piece in this one. Basically, if one of your green characters other than her would be removed from play due to your opponent's effects, you can instead just rest this character.
Yeah, it's a very similar effect to the 2-cost Don Quixote Rosinante from set, I think it's set 5 that we got that has blocker, but her stat line's a lot better.
Yeah.
Which means that she's not going to be getting removed as easily.
Yeah, no,
and
she's got the 4K.
Cost.
Yeah, she's got the 4K. She's a 3-cost, so it's going to be harder to remove her. And just the fact that you have to get rid of her before you can just use those in events and whatnot and effects that just blow up. Like if I played the 10-cost Shanks or whatever that I ran in my deck,
yes,
I have to get rid of her, or at least she has to be rested before I can blow up
something else. It always makes it a 2-for-1, which does not feel good.
No.
I'm checking to see. I think there was one more card that I was really interested in. Here it is. It's going to be our manga for the set, actually. The Trifliger Law.
I was looking at that one.
The 7-drop 9K effect is on play. Reveal up to one Supernovas type character card from your hand and add it to the top of your life cards face down. Then give up to one of your rested Dawn cards to one of your Supernovas type leaders. Which, that's a pretty impactful ability, and we have 2 Supernovas leaders in this set alone.
Yeah, there's a new law that's like a yellow-green law, and then we have the Eustace Kid that is just the mono-yellow that would really do well with this effect.
Yeah, I mean, both of them are benefiting a lot from this effect. I think the Eustace Kid is going to be a lot scarier than the yellow-green law, but, I mean, both of them
did you read his ability?
What, the kid?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it's gross.
It's
end
ridiculous.
Of turn. It's an end of turn ability. So I can do all my things that I want. You may turn the top card of your life cards face up, set one of your 3 to 8 cost characters with Supernova to active, and give it blocker. Hey, that 7-cost law that I just played that gave me, that extra resource untapped and gave Eustace the free Dawn, and I can swing in with Eustace on that turn. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and give him blocker as well. So good luck getting past a 9K.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. There's already been a lot of rulings discussions about his ability. You can use this ability on a character that's already active.
Right.
So then you just ignore the set as active part. You just give it blocker. So, you play that 7-drop 9K, and of course it's going to be active because you can't swing with it the turn you play it. Okay, cool, I'm going to give him blocker. That's a 9K blocker to deal with.
And the fact that you can flip over that life card, and if law comes into play, you put a new life card face down.
Yeah.
So now it's reset.
That's really driving home again. Yellow's about life manipulation. I know that, having discussions with other people, they were like, how many times are you really going to get to use that? Well, you have to think about it. One of the most played cards in Yellow right now is Kozuki Hiyori from OP06. Her ability is that she takes the top card off of life into your hand, and you can put another card from your hand onto the top of your life face down.
Yeah.
So you flip that card, next turn, drop the Hiyori, goes back to hand, and you put something else down, or even the same card, but it's face down now.
Mm-hmm.
You just completely reset that effect. And, it's going to be a lot of effects like that. There's going to be a ton of stuff that really drives that, manipulation to keep the effect running.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many great targets in the 3 to 8 cost range. I really think that Kid's going to be a force to contend with in this set. And in, competitive as a whole moving forward. But, those are the big cards that I'm really interested in for this set. Obviously, there's going to be a ton more stuff that we'll see develop. Alt arts always look great. Some of the pre-existing decks are getting a ton of support.
Yeah.
But I could talk for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours about this. Easily. I'm setting up to take the judge exam this weekend.
Yeah, good luck with that, because I heard it's really hard. Like, you have to get a 90% pass rate on that.
They finally lowered it. It's an 80% now.
Oh, okay. You have to get an 80. So you're only 5% off the last time you took it.
Yeah, I got a 75 last time. The last time I took it, which was months ago.
As my mother would say, see what you could have done if you had just studied?
I know. Crazy. Should have just studied a little
Shout
bit more.
Mom.
But, yeah, we can jump into the last thing that we wanted to talk about today, which is something a bit more shop focused.
Yeah, definitely. So I always kind of feel like we should talk a little bit about what's going on in the shop, in our local community and things like that. Kind of just give a few shout outs to people and whatnot, because I really feel like we wouldn't be here doing this if we didn't have the kind of community that we have. We wouldn't be here doing this if we didn't have the kind of shop that we have. And so, I don't want to sound like I'm shilling for the shop or anything like that.
No.
Like, that's not the case. Like, this is all genuine for me. I really like this store. I've said it before. I've been around. I've been to a bunch of different shops. This one feels like home, and you're welcome here, and you're accepted here. So, what we're doing is we've got the 3 podcasts that were planned out. We already started 2 of them. Mm-hmm. So we have already started Swabbing Decks, which is the weekly show that we're actually going to be recording an episode tonight. We're tune in for the live stream every Tuesday at 7 o'clock on Twitch.
I was going to say, this week's supposed to be Star Wars, right?
Star Wars is supposed to be this week. And as far as I understand it, they were going to be making the top PQ deck, the deck that won the PQ that we attended last weekend. Or the weekend before last.
Yeah.
And they were going to play their decks against it, because none of us in the actual tournament actually went up against that deck. And so they were gonna play their decks against it, just to kind of see how it shakes out and see how well it does. As far as I know.
Yeah.
Plans change, plans can change.
I would say by the time this comes out, the episode will have already been broadcast and
you all will know more information than us right now.
We may look like a bunch of goobers right now talking about this, but
so we have Swabbing Decks, and it's, like I said, every week on Tuesdays they have a cycle of games that they play. It's I never get this order right, but we started with Star Wars, which is the 3rd week. Then they did
Star Wars Magic,
right? That's the 4th week. Then they did Lorcana. Okay, so it's Lorcana's the 1st week. One Piece is the second week of the month. 3rd week is Star Wars, and then 4th week is Magic again.
And if there's just going to keep 5th week in a month, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We'll just do a grab bag of something.
Yeah.
So we've got that show going. Then we've got this show that it's just a couple of dudes sitting down talking about nerdy stuff coming out.
Couple of guys being dudes,
Dude bros dudes. So yeah, it's me and Tyler as 2 people that work in this shop, just talking about stuff that's coming out, stuff that we're excited about, stuff that we're kind of into, and it's kind of just a casual conversation. This one didn't feel as casual because
we've run through
this a couple of times already. But that's beneath the surface. And then we have another one that's going to be coming out that we're calling Echoes in the Deep.
I'm really glad that we've finally been able to put the name out there. I know that so much stuff has been forced to be kept under wraps as we've planned things out and figured out how we want to handle disseminating information out.
So this is going to be a D&D show. We actually are going to record it, our faces on the screen kind of situation, where our owner Braden is going to be doing his first campaign as a DM.
I know it's already nerve-wracking to be a first-time DM, but doing it on camera just adds a whole other level to it.
Yeah, you've got to be comfortable with it. And honestly, we had Saturday was our auditions, right, for cast members. We had over 22 applicants come in.
Insane to me.
We opened doors at 10 o'clock for auditions, and I kid you not, we did not stop until 6 o'clock, if not later.
That's insane.
And
that's 8+ hours. That's like movie auditions.
Yeah, I mean, granted, it's a lot of local people. Unfortunately, because of scheduling conflicts and timing and whatnot, a lot of our military guys just aren't able to participate.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
We love our military guys. No, nothing on them, but it's just because with deployments and things like that, we can't guarantee that you're going to be here for the length and time and breadth that we plan on doing this. So,
because I know that from what I've heard so far, there is at least like almost 2 years worth of stuff planned out already on Braden's end, which is insane to think about.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been doing world building. Just he sits in his office or he sits at home and just writes stuff down and kind of has this idea kind of planned out for everything. But we had 22 people come in and audition, and several times I'm sitting here watching the counter and kind of taking care of people as they come in, getting them to fill out the forms and whatnot, the release forms.
Yeah.
And several times Braden came out to take just a quick breather and was like, man, this is going to be impossible. Why did I do this to myself? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, everybody's been so great that it's going to be hard to pick. And that's not him blowing smoke or anything. Like, let's not get that twisted at all. Like,
oh yeah.
I've heard some of the auditions. I've talked to the people as they were coming out, and like a lot of people were really, did really well. And Anna, our media manager, she came out because she was sitting in on the auditions, and she was like, man, I have no idea how Braden's going to pick, because it's just, there's so many great applicants. And it's like, going into it, I know you and I have talked about it, we thought it was just going to be, oh, sure, like you're going to get a third of them are going to just be joke characters or just, BSing around. Not taking it seriously.
Yeah, like they're just here like, oh, if I get in, it'll be funny.
It'll be funny. I'll be the funny guy.
Everyone wants to be the comedian. I expected a lot of that. I expected a lot of people that, while they were earnest, maybe they just weren't as experienced with TTRPGs. They
honestly,
weren't comfortable
amateur
role playing. Yeah, I mean, you can call it what it is. People who are very amateur trying this out, because again, it's already a little uncomfortable for people to get into character.
Right.
Do that on camera.
And doing it on camera in front of strangers.
That makes it even harder. But,
sure.
And I thought it was just going to be like, we go through auditions, and it was going to be like, oh yeah, before the day was over, I had my 6.
Sure. Like we thought it was going to be bing, bang, boom, done. He's picked his 6, and we're going to be moving on to doing like a one-shot or something.
Yeah, no.
But no, like it shook out. There were so many people. Like I walked in the room after it was all said and done, and I'm not gonna lie, I auditioned because we work here did not guarantee us a position on this. And I even flat out said, like, I don't want any kind of special treatment just because I work here or I'm a friend of the store or I'm friends with the owner or anything like that. Nothing like that. I wanted to get in on just the merit of my ability to perform.
Exactly. And I think that's how most people would be.
And so I don't have a lot of inside baseball, right? So I don't have a lot of inside information about what's going on. But we already did the callbacks. So if you guys got a callback, that means, you're going to be doing a one shot with a group of people just to kind of see how your chemistry is, just to see how you look on camera, how you react to certain situations, that kind of thing. Just to see like what the entertainment value of your performance will be, because we're trying to make this somewhat decent quality. Like we don't want to put out a bad product.
Of course not. No one wants to put out a bad product.
So, the callbacks have already gone out. If you didn't get a callback, hey, don't let it dishearten you.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean you were bad.
No,
it just means there were so many really great performances.
We really just had to pick.
We had to pick 12 people. We're doing 2 groups of 6. They're going to do their one shot. I'm hoping that we're going to record it, and who knows, maybe we'll even throw them up online.
I'd love to see that,
just to kind of see the chemistry and whatnot of people. And then from those 12, Braden is going to pick the final 6 people that will actually be in the show. And I wouldn't be surprised if we end up doing things like what they did with some of the other shows that are out there, where they'll have like a guest come in and sit in for an episode or 2 or something like that. Or if somebody, has other prior obligations and just cannot make it, if they call in, another person to come and sit in or something like that, that might be something worthwhile looking into. So don't get disheartened.
Don't despair.
At all. Don't think that we're just shunning you or pushing you to the side. He's got a file folder of everybody's auditions and has a file on his computer with all of their audition tapes.
Yeah, and another thing to keep in mind, this does well. I'm sure it will not be the last one.
Oh, probably not.
And I'm sure that it would not be out of the realm of possibility that once this campaign finishes, whenever it finishes, which we're talking potentially years down the line, we'll do a whole new audition cycle, bring in some new people. Or call back some of the people that auditioned this time around. Yeah.
So don't think that we're going to forget about you. I mean, there was just so many great applications. But yeah, so, get the call back. We're going to do the one shots. I think we're going to be trying to get them done as soon as possible so that we can kind of get our final 6 in and actually set the time and whatnot. Because it's also a commitment. He's already made it pretty clear to everybody that got a call back, because I've talked with some of them that did, and you got to be here 6 a.m. It's going to be 6 a.m. to
early
noon,
records. Doing
early records before the store opens, in the back room, just trying to knock it out, getting those 6 hours done, and then we're going to take those 6 hours and we're going to break them up into like 4 episode chunks.
Yeah, so that makes it so, people who may not be able to make the weekly commitment, hey, you can make the monthly commitment.
Right. It's one day out of the month that you got to be here for 6 hours.
And it's going to be on a weekend. It's not going to be hey, show up Tuesday at 6 a.m.
No, as far as I understand it, he's going to try and keep it to a Saturday.
Which is a reasonable day for someone to, give up one Saturday a month, basically, to play some D&D. Oh, no, there are a lot worse things you'd be doing on a Saturday morning.
And you'll know well ahead in time. Like, I work on base as my primary, occupation. And we get plenty of leave, but we have to know ahead of time that we can put that leave in, so that if there is any work going on, like, hey, man, sorry, I have leave in that day, or I'm unavailable that day. So like, yeah, even if we end up going to like shift work or something like that, there's definitely that period in which I can make the time. And that's kind of the dedication that we're kind of looking for, is that someone who is willing to make the time for this project, besides screen presence and things like that. And I feel like that's really what we were looking for when we were doing this. What Braden was looking for was not necessarily your ability to do a voice or to, be your character, but really your comfortability. The being comfortable being recorded, being comfortable playing your character, being your character. You don't have to be a voice actor. We're not a bunch of Hollywood voice actors that get paid to do, sit around a table and play D&D for 4 hours a week. That's not what we do.
No, that's
We're
not
just
what this
your
is trying
average,
to be.
Right. And to touch on that, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one thing that I know Braden was really worried about with this project. Was he's an amateur DM. He's never DM'd before. And so he's been researching it. He's been watching videos. He's been reading books on DMing and things like that.
The pile of
books.
He's
really thrown himself into this. But he was so worried about it. Like, he came to, me and Anna were talking, and he was like, we were talking about everything going on, and he was like, man, I don't know, maybe we should put out a call out for a DM to come in and take over. And both Anna and I were just like, no, you need to DM this. And that's kind of the angle that we want to kind of go for, is an amateur DM with a couple of, not super experienced, I wouldn't say amateur, but like not super experienced players with maybe one or two experienced people to sit down and figure out this game together. You know, I would love, because time and time again on all these shows, you see these like super experienced people playing D&D like they have been for years. They know how things go. They know the rules. I think it's going to be more entertaining to sit down and watch a guy who just goes, that makes sense, do that.
Yeah, I think a big thing about that too, and it's something that we've talked about, off of recording. When you watch those shows, like, your Critical Roles, Dimension 20s, whatever, they're super entertaining, but it's not always the most accurate representation of, D&D for the average person.
Sure.
Because, these are people who are professional voice actors that have been playing for, decades at this point. This show is hopefully going to capture more of the true and honest experience that you're going to get when you go and buy your first player's handbook and your Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual, and you sit down with your friends and you're figuring this out. And it's really going to capture the feeling of learning together and growing characters together and, experiencing D&D for what it is, like what makes it such a special game to so many people. Because I can't tell you how many times I've had people come in here and they're so excited to play D&D. They're like, I love Critical Role. I love, whatever show this is. And they can feel a little disheartened sometimes because they go and sit down and do it and they go, oh, I'm not Matt Mercer. I'm not,
my DM is not Matt Mercer.
Yeah, my DM is not Matt Mercer.
Doing all of these voices and these characters and this world building. And we're not having these, 10, 15, 20-minute long dialogues between the players. It's a lot of, I want to go buy this, or I want to go over here and look at that, or we're going out adventuring. I'm going to kick the door in and I'm going to kill all the monsters inside the room. What kind of treasure do I find? What kind of loot? It's a lot of the nitty gritty. And people go into it expecting it's going to be this grandiose, thing. It even has a name now. It's literally called the Critical Role effect.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, again, Critical Role is a great show.
Oh, it is.
Popular for a reason.
Yeah.
But people need to understand that when you're sitting down for the first time at a table to play, that is not the experience you're going to get.
No, that is definitely
You may never get that experience because that's a very special group, and they're all voice actors.
Right.
They're all very comfortable with acting and doing what they do.
Yes, they've been doing it for years. Even when they started, Critical Role, I remember watching the first couple of episodes and how rough the quality was. The audio was rough and things like that. But even then, you're talking about it's a group of professional actors. And they're so good, they got accused of writing scripts. Everything was scripted. And, it came out that Matt only has an overview. He talks to the players, right? And he talks to the players before they start recording about what they're aiming to do or what they're kind of doing. Like, he still gets surprised. He still has to react, but he's so well versed in doing that, in reacting to players, in reacting to situations that, it looks second nature. You can watch him on that screen and just be at awe and amazed at like how he reacts to everything.
Yeah, and he's very, he's fast on his feet. He doesn't get caught off guard completely very often.
Right.
And if he does, he doesn't show it.
No, he recovers very quickly and moves on.
Yeah, but people just have to understand your local DM probably isn't going to handle things the same way. He's not going to build his sessions the same way. And, I guess the whole point of the spiel is to just point out that this is the experience that we're trying to deliver is more
raw, more authentic.
Not to say that theirs isn't authentic.
No.
Again,
it's the difference between your average person and somebody who does the thing for a living.
Exactly. And I'm really excited to see where it goes and how it plays out, because there is just so much room for growth for everyone involved.
Sure.
And even me, who isn't participating in the campaign at all, I was thinking about trying out and decided against it. I know only a little bit more, but there's still so much that I'm not aware of yet.
Right.
And I am super excited to see what comes out as, the weeks go on.
Bro, I've been running D&D for a very long time. Even I don't know everything. Even I'm still like learning ins and outs of different things and different combinations and how certain things are supposed to work and how I've kind of just done things over the years. And that's kind of the beauty of, a game like this, a session like this, a show like this, is that we get to see that new DM kind of just, how are they going to react? How are they going to handle this situation or that situation? You can plan out the entire adventure left, right, and center, but at the end of the day, as soon as your plans meet the party, for all you know, they could go right out the window.
9 times out of 10, they fall apart immediately.
So, I will say this. The only real piece of like advice that I can give him as a new DM is be prepared for things to go sideways.
Be prepared for the unexpected.
Try not to be rigid in how you have prepared your sessions. I'm going to tell you the secret. I've been running games for longer than I'd care to admit, and I never go into it with anything written down. I have a general structure of how I'd like the adventure itself to go. 9 times out of 10, I let the players just drive the story on their own. And if I feel like they're being stagnant or if they're just kind of meandering around a bit, I give them more direction. I kind of focus them in a little bit.
Yeah, you give them that little kick.
Yeah. And it's always like, here's the arrow, here's the carrot. So prime example, like I'm running a campaign now with some of my friends, and I honestly don't know where it's going. I genuinely don't. I know what major overarching goals that I would like to see in the story, but it is a story and it's a living story. And that's the beauty of D&D, is that it is a group storytelling experience. I'm not the overall arbiter and writer of this story. The players are. I just facilitate the world and the adventure for them to go on.
Oh yeah, and that's another big thing for people to remember is when someone takes on the role of being a DM, you are not opposed to the players.
Oh no. It's never meant to be player versus DM, ever. Because then when one side is having fun, the other isn't. And it's a group experience. Everybody is supposed to be having fun. If I'm not having fun running the game, what incentive is there for me to continue running it? And if you're not having fun playing the game, what incentive do you have to continue playing?
Exactly. It's entirely collaborative.
So it's that social contract. I as the DM will provide you with the sandbox to play in as long as you respect the 4 walls that go around that sandbox and the rules that are in that sandbox that I've put in place. No pissing in the corner kind of situation. And you as the players can expect that you will be given an adventure to play out. You will have the entertaining fights, the entertaining dialogue, the entertaining NPCs that you can encounter along the way. And that's my job as the DM to facilitate that. And for the most part, as far as I know, I haven't gotten any complaints yet, but that's what I try to do. Because for me, my DMing style, and that is something that should be mentioned. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a different DMing style.
Yes. And that's something that you have to learn.
You have to understand that, because not every DM is going to be Matt Mercer. Not every DM is going to be Matt Colville. Not every DM is going to be Seth Skorkowski. Not every DM is going to be Nick the Red. We're all different. We all have different ways that we like playing the game. And if you agree to sit down to the table, you're kind of agreeing to at least hear me out and kind of try to play along with me. It's always a terrible experience being on this side of the DM screen and you've got 4 people sitting across from you that always just want to beat you.
Yeah, and it'll wear you down very quickly. with a game like this. Because, again, D&D isn't something that you play. It's not a quick, 30 minutes to an hour.
No.
Your average D&D session, on average, is 3 to 4 hours. Yeah, I mean, I've seen how long yours run. I've seen how long they go. I've stopped by your house before when it's, D&D day,
Bro,
the whole day.
But see, that's the thing, though, is that we don't play every week. We play every other week. And
True.
so
you make up the time.
We make up the time by basically cramming 2 4-hour sessions together. Because we usually take a meal break in the middle. And I do cooking. I actually enjoy cooking. It's one of my hobbies. And so oftentimes I'll ask my players to we do like a potluck kind of thing.
Yeah.
Have them bring some of the ingredients and I whip up food for everybody and we all sit down and have a meal together. And I feel like that helps us as a group really bond together. I feel like when you break bread, it's a bonding experience.
Of course.
And
meals are a social thing.
So, yeah.
And it helps bring everyone together. And it can be that nice break because, as someone who has sat in and played in some really long sessions, you hit that 4-hour mark and sometimes your brain is just mush.
Right. But yeah, so like I said, running these games, I mean, my game that I'm running currently has run concurrently for almost 3 years. And we like taking it slow. We like kind of world building. We like getting the characters involved. And because we only play every 2 weeks, it has taken longer. I mean, if you cut that time in half, the game really has kind of been going on for like a year and a half.
Yeah, which your average campaign, when you finally find your group and you get into your groove, you can expect a campaign to run for a year to 2 years.
Yeah.
Mileage may vary always. There are plenty of groups I've seen that they can finish their campaign in 6-7 months. I've seen some groups that are on the same campaign that's been 5, 6, 7 years later.
Sure. I've got a buddy of mine I used to game with regularly that literally plays in a game yearly with his friends back home in Ohio. And he literally drives back there from Virginia, and it's his old buddy Tommy Boy and Schmeck and all the boys, and they sit down and they play a D&D game, I think they've transitioned to Pathfinder now, but yeah. They've been playing the same game for like almost 10 years now. His kids basically grew up with these people playing the game.
Yeah, which is a really cool experience to have. And you bringing up Pathfinder, that's probably the last little soapbox I'll get on for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone that's trying to get into tabletop RPGs in general, just understand that if D&D isn't your speed, there are other games out there.
Yeah, and I've got Cyberpunk running. You've got a Cyberpunk game that you're in.
I'm in love with Cyberpunk right now as a system.
So it's really fun. We've got Call of Cthulhu. We've got Delta Green.
Yes.
You've got
Shadowrun.
Shadowrun is a really popular one that people seem to like. There is a plethora of RPG games out there. They're tabletop RPGs. There's a Final Fantasy one that's coming out soon, and I know you're really excited about.
Yes, I'm super excited about that one.
I'm interested at least to see what the mechanics are of the game, how it plays differently. But there's so many different games. Vampire the Masquerade, The World of Darkness, those kind of games. I played those games for years.
Yeah, and you can even get into the more obscure ones. There's Lancer, which I think is a mecha-based.
Yeah, I've read some of Lancer. I've watched a couple of videos. It looks like a lot of fun. I definitely want to try and get my hands on some of those books because I'm a big RPG collector. You should see my book. You've seen my bookshelf.
Yes, I've seen your bookshelf. You have a ton of.
I just have a ton of obscure RPG books. I have the original Star Wars D6 system from back in the day. I've got the third edition Star Wars books. I've got GURPS, the generic universal role-playing system books that, are a lot of fun to build characters in and kind of play out and have adventures. So we definitely we are flush with choices on our games, and if D&D is not your speed, there is definitely a game out there that you can try that you will probably enjoy.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like when someone says that they hate music. You don't hate music, you just haven't found the music that works for you. It's too broad of a thing. There's got to be something for someone out there, is how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was about to say, I think we've been going for a good bit of time now. I think we've hit all the topics we want to hit today.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to touch on?
No, like you said, I think we really did kind of hit everything that we wanted to talk about this go around. Look forward to the next episode. I'm pretty sure we're going to have more results back from the Warhammer tournament coming up.
Yes.
Tune in for our Swab and Dex episode this week. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Other than that, just kind of keep your guys' ears peeled. Like, we're definitely going to be updating regularly about this whole D&D podcast thing. I'm looking forward to it.
So am I. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think even if I don't end up, making the final cut, I think it's still going to be entertaining enough to watch.
Yeah.
So
for sure. We'll touch on next week, though.
Yep, we'll touch on it next week. As always, guys, thanks for listening. We hope that we've earned your subscription to our channel or at least a like on our video. It really helps the algorithm out. But yeah, catch you guys next time. Yeah. I'm Nick the Red, and with me as always is Tyler P.
Yeah, have a great week, guys.
Take it easy, guys.
Attention small business owners. Are you looking to amplify your reach and get your business in front of more customers? Deep Dive Games has an exciting opportunity for you. We're currently seeking local businesses in the St. Mary's, Georgia and Athens, Ohio areas to advertise on our 2 weekly podcasts. With 6 ad spaces available, you can showcase your brand to our engaged listeners and drive traffic to your business. Choose to pay per ad or save big by securing a year's worth of advertising in advance, locked in at the current rate. Ready to take the next step in promoting your business? Don't miss out. Contact us today at 912-439-3940 or shoot us an email at deepdivegamesllc@gmail.com. Let's work together to get the word out and grow your business. This episode is brought to you by CM Design and Gifts. CM Design and Gifts is Camden County's premier destination for everything including embroidery, laser engraving, direct-to-film printing, trophies, signs, banners, and more. Locally owned and operated by a Marine Corps veteran and his family, the store is conveniently located behind the Brown Bag Liquor Store in Kingsland, Georgia. No job is too small or too large for this thriving company, eager to support our military community and residents. Contact them at info@cmdgifts.com or visit their website at www.cmdgifts.com. This episode is brought to you by Game Over Video Games and More in Kingsland, Georgia. Are you looking for video games, classic consoles, or a fresh collection of new releases? Game Over Video Games and More in Kingsland, Georgia has it all. Whether you're a modern gamer or just want to relive your gaming nostalgia, they've got an impressive selection, great deals, and a friendly staff ready to help. Stop by and level up at Game Over Video Games and More. This episode is brought to you by Alien Treats. Ever wondered what it's like to have a milkshake that's out of this world? Welcome to Alien Treats, Kingsland's one-of-a-kind alien-themed ice cream and candy shop. Whether you're craving a cosmic milkshake, want to cruise our huge selection of freeze-dried candy, or just chill in their free arcade, they've got something for the whole family. Have a birthday party or event coming up? They have a new party room you can rent by the hour that's perfect to make every special occasion memorable. So, if you're looking for a fun, family-friendly experience that's anything but ordinary, beam yourselves over to Alien Treats in Kingsland, Georgia. Follow them on Facebook for the latest specials and events, and remember, at Alien Treats, every bite is an adventure. Alien Treats, where our treats are out of this world.